This is the Sports Desk on Sin 90.7 on your Wednesday with Lucy,
Mel,
and
no one.
just the two of us.
Lucy, Mel, and no one.
Well, yes, we did have a late omission from the Wednesday crew, but that's okay. We still got me and Mel to give you all of the best.
It's another girls' edition.
Exactly.
They're our favourite editions.
It's the favourite edition of the Sports Desk on a Wednesday. And the Sports on the Wednesday, you have Monday recapping the weekend. Friday we review a big weekend of sport. So Wednesday we sort of get into the nitty-gritty, the politics behind sport. Which is, what do we call that?
The spolitics, if you will, Lucy.
Yes, exactly. The spolitics, if you will. And we've got a few big ones today, and we're going to open with a very exhaustive topic.
Yeah,
I think.
That's the right word.
And that is Maria Sharapova and what she's been up to. And she obviously, served her ban.
Served her ban for doping.
Had a few controversial remarks made about her by a few other players on the tour.
Correct. So
namely
Eugenie Bouchard.
Was not allowed entry into Roland Garros.
Yep.
Which interestingly was because they wanted to protect the high standards of the game of tennis.
So they didn't feel that granting a wild card to someone that had been found guilty of doping was appropriate.
Yep.
Seems pretty classic French, really.
Yeah, true.
Doesn't it? It's just
it
the
does.
Frenchies being like, no, thank you.
This is not good enough
Exactly.
for us.
So, and then Miss Wimbledon with injury.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to have this awkward conversation then because she couldn't play. And it's US Open time, and she's gone, hello, I'm fresh and I would like to play in a Grand Slam again now. Have me. And US Open have decided to grant her a wild card as a past champion of the tournament. And I quite like what they said, actually. They touched upon how, in a roundabout way, how France said no because we've got to uphold our standards. And they said, well, she's served her ban. So, now here we go. And in the past, when a past champion has needed a wild card to gain entry into the tournament, from injury setbacks or anything like that, we grant them to them. And that's what we've done in the past. And this will be no different given that she's served her ban.
She served her ban. She served her time. And also went out and spoke to young US players.
So that is part
what
she's yet to.
Okay.
So part of the agreement into her getting a wild card is that she has also graciously volunteered to speak to a whole bunch of young US tennis players about the importance of the anti-doping regime and the importance of players being really aware of everything to do with kind of doping. So that's been the part and parcel there. We've granted her a wild card. She's back. She's also volunteered.
Yeah, exactly.
She definitely was not tapped on the shoulder and said, you can also do this as well.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a, we'll scratch your back if you scratch ours, which is good for everyone, I think. But where are you at with this? I'm happy with it. I'm happy for her to be back.
Yeah, I think so. But I think the thing that sort of murkies it or it makes it become a grey area for me is the fact that they said that this is consistent with standard practice. But is it consistent with standard practice if that person has served a doping ban?
No. Yeah. Clearly. But that's because there's no precursor to this.
There's no precedent,
precedent, that's the word I wanted. There's no precedent, so that's where all the confusions come from. I agree. It's hard because, we all hate doping. So you go, once a doper, always a doper, you're out. But it is one of those things that eventually you can't continue to punish someone. We've agreed that she was found guilty on whatever counts. This is the punishment that we impose, which was the ban. She served the ban. She's ticked all the boxes she needed to do. So you got to move on.
Yeah.
It's the same with the Essendon players, which we always come back to, that once you've served the imposed ban, we can't expect them to do any more. That is the punishment we give them once they've served that. As hard as it is, you've got to...
You got to move on and sort of let them...
Well, because otherwise... enforce the ban is you can't play in a Grand Slam ever again if we're going to be funny about it every time. That wasn't the ban.
You have to
So it's hard. It's so grey.
Yeah.
But we can't ask much more
and it's one of those
from
things
her.
that if it never happens again, she never dopes again or is found guilty of that, then you can very much sort of just say, oh, you know, like she's served her time, she's never done it again, she will never do it again, so she's playing within the rules kind of thing. But like, do you like think this is just an issue that we're gonna have to put up with Maria Sharapova now? Like, is this gonna constantly like is it gonna constantly come up?
I think a little bit. I think especially for the next 12 months. Do you know when I think it'll go away once she starts to play, if she does. If she starts to play fantastic tennis again and get back to her best, this will go away. You know, she's been hindered by injury and all these sorts of things, so she hasn't been able to really get back in her groove. If she wins a Grand Slam.
Oh, yeah.
But then it comes back again because there's going to be people going,
how
is a doper able to win it? But, you know, if she is playing some hot form, like ideally if she wants to leave the US Open, I think absolutely making the quarterfinals at the least. Yeah. And then if she can do that, she's back, baby, and that will go a long way into changing the discourse.
Yeah, exactly. And, well, interestingly, like to sort of close out that discussion, Jeannie Bouchard has yet to qualify for the US Open.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But, you know, I bet you she'll play the game of her life now and she'll qualify.
Yeah, she'll, like, get in there somehow.
Because it's just this weird extra motivation for her, this personal vendetta.
It is. It's so weird. I feel like it's like, like she just sees Maria Sharapova doing something now and she's like,
kill.
Beast mode, like, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Like, she just gets into it. But, yeah.
Very
I think, as you said, if she does well this US Open, then it'll be like a comeback story. It'll turn into something like that.
I think the longer her tennis isn't doing the talking, the worse it is for her. So she needs to get on court and play some ripper tennis. Yeah. And then that'll go a long way for all of us getting past this.
Yeah. So, yeah, Sharapova, if you've just joined us, has been granted the wild card to the US Open despite serving her ban. But, we'll see how she goes in this US Open because I think that'll be interesting. When we come back from this song, we're going to talk more tennis. The treatment of Nick Kyrgios.
Mm-hmm. You know, my favourite topic.
Yep.
I'm the oldest Kyrgios apologist there ever has been.
I feel I'm so conflicted by it. But we will talk more Nick Kyrgios when we come back from this song. This is Changes with Kingdom. The Sports Desk on SYN 90.7. You are here with Lucy and Mel.
Yes, you
are.
And
Mel as the premier Nick Kyrgios apologist.
Yeah.
I am. We're going to talk about her, about him. You and Nick Kyrgios.
Yeah, me and my boy Nicky. Nick Kyrgios back in headlines again this week. For some good reasons or some bad reasons. It depends what media you read.
I think all of all of his headlines, it's literally just like, is it good or is it bad? Like, which is it? I don't know anymore. Like, honestly, do not know anymore.
I was thinking about this on the way in, and I think I'm kind of skipping ahead a bit, but Nick Kyrgios just is the gift that keeps on giving for clickbait because he's so loose with his mouth. And so that's when you see these ridiculous headlines that make him out to be like a flog because they take these. There was one from the weekend where he said, the headline was like Nick Kyrgios in final of the biggest game of his life. Admits he was thinking about getting a thick shake.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
That was the headline.
Yeah.
It's clickbait 101. And Kyrgios is just the man for that. But anyway, taking a step back, Nick Kyrgios has played some ripping tennis, arguably the best of his life over the past 2 weeks. Been absolutely hindered by injury and some kind of, the death of his grandparents earlier this year and things like that. But has struck some really good form lately. He beat Nadal, who is current world number one. Who else did he beat?
Beat Ferreira.
John Isner, Ferreira. So he's beating some really...
Beat Djokovic as well.
Beat Djokovic, but not in this little run.
Not in this little run,
but like maybe a month or two ago. But and not only did he beat these guys, he's beaten them convincingly. He smashed Nadal out of the park. Made it to the final of an ATP Masters event, which is the second tier to a Grand Slam. Yeah. So that's huge. This is the best he's done.
First time for Australian in 12 years as well. Yeah.
See, right? It's awesome when you look into it. And he loses in the final in straight sets. Puts up a good fight. Yeah. But it wasn't kind of that crazy match that everyone was hoping it would be against Dimitrov, who is awesome in his own right. Also gets compared to Kyrgios because he's kind of the older Kyrgios. So Dimitrov's 26, and when he was kind of 19, he was tipped as the next big thing. he's the next big thing that's kind and not ever taken off.
Yeah.
So a lot of people drawing parallels there. Yes. But Kyrgios was well behaved.
He was
this whole tournament.
He was.
He was really gracious in defeat in his post-match speech. Had the crowd just eating out of the palm of his hand. I'm just doing all the cliches today. But yeah, was really great post-game, and then did his classic Kyrgios, very honest in his post-game presser. And that's when we've seen some Australian media particularly jump on that cliche reporting of Kyrgios and finding the negative and making that the spotlight.
Yeah.
So Nick Kyrgios tweeted a couple of days ago an article where, was it, who wrote it? Was it the Herald Sun?
I think it was the Herald Sun.
Yeah, it was news.com.au, I think. And the headline was Kyrgios flops in Masters final.
Yeah.
Which is just, and so Kyrgios tweeted it and said, haha, classic Aussie media. And it's so true because...
It is true.
Is that your headline out of that? Kyrgios flops in Masters final. So the second set was 7-5 as well.
Yeah.
So it's not like it was a walkover.
He didn't throw it or anything, yeah.
But you've just told me that he's the first Aussie to make a ATP Masters final in however many years. He's just beaten the world number one and everybody else. And our headline is he flopped in the final.
Yep.
Get out.
Yeah. It's not it's not very fair at all on Kyrgios.
So I can understand where his frustration comes from, and I just don't think that that's helpful for any of us because then you're getting people that aren't fully aware of how big he making that final was are just going to hate him more. And then he just gets annoyed with us more, and this all just continues. So... yeah, I mean...
I think it comes from a place, though, where I think we're all frustrated with Nick Kyrgios.
100%.
Like, it's frustration. Like, I very much feel that frustration. Like, whenever... And maybe it's because maybe it's because I have just stopped reading the articles and just read the headlines.
Yeah.
But all you see is, like, Nick Kyrgios booed off the court.
Yeah.
Nick Kyrgios flops in final.
Yeah.
Nick Kyrgios thinks about having a milkshake rather than playing. Nick Kyrgios caught playing social basketball while he's injured.
Yeah.
Like, you just see all of this stuff and you're just like, can this guy just play tennis?
What's going on? And I think that's...
Can you just focus for a second?
It's weird, isn't it? Because it's just genuinely a curious case. And it's a little bit of a new gen age thing, but then we're seeing some younger guys like Zverev not being like this and being your classic, like, sit down, shut up, play hard. But because I'm reluctant to slam a player for being brutally honest.
Yeah.
Although I did it with Bernard Tomic, but that's a different kettle of fish.
But yeah, I was going to say, like, mention that. Like, the Bernard Tomic thing is so much different.
Yeah.
I think, because I think Nick Kyrgios wants to play good tennis. And
Kyrgios has that fight in him.
He wants to, yeah, exactly. He has that sort of, like, want for success and sort of. But Tomic has literally just come out and said, this is a business transaction for me, essentially. Like, I'm here, I'm going to show up. Maybe play well, take my money and run.
Whereas Kyrgios is just the ultimate, like, he rides waves of momentum. When he's on, he's arguably the greatest player on the tour right now.
Yeah.
But when he's off, he's not showing up.
No,
He's thinking about a milkshake halfway through the game.
Yeah, exactly.
So I get how it's frustrating. I am on the Kyrgios camp, though, with reporting like that on the back of an achievement like that is just downright rude.
Yeah, it is. Because, as you said, it was like a week or like a week and a half of, like, amazing tennis on Kyrgios's behalf. And this sort of will, like, why talk about him being a flop at the Masters? Why not talk about him making a final of a Masters tournament, beating all these opponents, and having a run that'll take him into the US Open as one of...
really hot form.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's clearly written by someone that doesn't like Nick Kyrgios. Like, you can tell straight away that if you've gone that angle, you or the editor, not his biggest fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's frustrating, and I would be so frustrated if I was him. But obviously, the other thing to consider is exactly that. I'm an apologist, and I keep holding my breath for Kyrgios because of this potential. But how many how many times have we been through this? He plays a month of great tennis and then completely screws up.
That's
and we go
where
round and round and round.
That's where my whole thing with Nick Kyrgios comes about, because I'm just like, I'm sick of talking about him like just all the time, in terms of like, you hear about him when he's doing really, really bad, but you hear so much of him when he's really, really bad that when he does something really, really good, I'm kind of like,
it's not outweighing
too
it.
late.
Yep.
Like, I need him to get a coach.
Yeah.
I need him to train and like focus.
Has he got a coach now?
I don't think so. He still doesn't have one. To like actually train, put in some work and have some really good form, and then maybe I will be okay with him thinking about milkshakes.
Yeah. You're exactly right, though. We can only go around in circles so much and be still forgiving. I'm, one of the last ones, still holding my breath, holding out hope because of that potential. But before we wrap this up, I think it's also interesting to note that my personal opinion is that we're less forgiving of someone like Nick Kyrgios and perhaps Bernard Tomic. But again, I just think he is so far gone.
Yeah,
But we're less forgiving of Kyrgios for all these mistakes because we don't love the sport as much. So I'm kind of talking more broadly in a media and just more broadly as Australians. Like, we like tennis, but we're pretty bandwagony with tennis.
Yeah.
Whereas footy and NRL, we love that all the time. So when a footy player screws up, we hate them for 2 seconds, but then they'll play a ripper game.
Yeah.
A Dustin Martin who'll do his weird chopsticks thing.
Yeah.
But then he'll be favourite for the Brownlow and we all forget about it and it's fine. And we've seen very similar cases in the NRL with worse cases.
Yeah.
With top players doing ridiculous things, but then they'll play a few good State of Origin games and we all seem to forget about it.
Yeah.
And then even post-career, they're back on our TV screens in media roles and we forget some really damning things that these players have done. But because we don't have that same crazy love for tennis as a country, we seem less forgiving.
Yeah.
Kyrgios is hated.
Yeah.
But if you compare it to some things that former AFL players and stuff have done, they don't stack up.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't, and that, I think that's a really good point. It doesn't stack up. And also the fact that Nick Kyrgios can't hide behind a team.
Yeah.
It's literally just him.
It's all him.
It's just literally all him. It's an interesting case.
It's just a curious case, and there's no right or wrong, and no one knows how to fix it until Kyrgios just gets his maturity together.
He needs to get his maturity together, but he also needs to make at least the fourth round of the US Open.
Yeah. I agree. He does.
He needs to prove himself now. That's what I want to see.
I agree with you. A fourth round is a pass mark for him at the moment, and that's, as he said in his presser the other day. He said, "I don't want everyone going, well, shoot, you're going into the US Open as a favourite now because of this."
Yeah.
Because he said, whenever that happens, I seem to bomb out. Like, you just never know with me. Yeah. And he even said a line like, that'd be such a Nick Kyrgios thing to do.
Yeah.
And I love that.
That's
He's
endearing.
so honest.
Yeah.
And it's true, though. After this great form, he could just lose in the first round. You just never know.
Oh, let's hope not.
I think that's part of the fun. It's entertaining.
Oh my God. You never know what's going to happen next.
You might hate him. You might love him. Who knows?
Well, we'll keep a close eye on Nick Kyrgios and how he goes in the US Open, because that starts next week.
Yeah. Super soon. And we will be reporting it with a positive slant, hopefully.
Yes, we will. We will make sure his achievements are, given the weight or the less weight that they deserve. We'll see.
Yes, exactly right.
If he makes that fourth round or he bombs out in the first round, who knows? But we're going to go to a song now. This is Lord with Homemade Dynamite, and when we come back, we are going to talk about the changing face of the VFL Women's. This is the Sports Desk on SYN 90.7. That was Lord with Homemade Dynamite. You're here with Lucy
and Mel.
And Mel
just found some leaves in her hair.
Oh, how fun! How fun!
But we are here on an all-girls edition of Spalatics. Woohoo!
On a Wednesday, and keeping with the theme of getting around the girls.
Yes, getting around the girls.
We're talking about a subject that has been. I don't really know how to say this, but it's been a boom this year.
A boom.
There's been a boom, and that is AFL Women's.
Yes.
A lot of girls taking up the sport.
Correct.
Which is amazing.
We love it.
In and of itself. But it also means that there's just
growth.
A lot going on.
A lot of growth.
Behind the scenes, which sort of talks about this whole kind of equality for girls in the sport, I'd say. Like making sure they have the same chances that the boys do.
Yep.
To, develop the pathways and the strength. But what that also means is there is a lot of change that a lot of people may not be happy with.
Yeah, it's kind of like we want to get the VFLW comp up to a level that's really similar to the VFL men's comp, kind of as quickly as we can for the benefit of the comp, for the benefit of great players, blah, blah, blah. But that means we're fast-tracking this process far quicker than the men's ever was.
Yeah.
And there are consequences.
And there is consequences. And sort of one of the main consequences of this is that this competition, the VFL Women's, which has, given us players like our Katie Brennans, our Darcy Vessios, our Daisy Pierces, Mel Hickey, they all play for the same team, which is Darebin. But, but they're also, it's Brie Davey who plays for St Kilda Sharks, Emma Carney and Ali Blackburn who play for Melbourne Uni. We have the Hosking twins down at Seaford, Bianca Jacobson from Cranbourne. All of these players are great AFLW players, but a lot of them also come from community clubs.
Correct.
So, now we have this sort of thing where these community clubs are having so much extra pressure put on them, financial pressure, financial burdens, and also just the pressure of being professional clubs while trying to hold on to your community identity.
Yeah, we're in that awkward space now of it starting to grow more, that it's exactly putting too much pressure on these community clubs, and we're like, well, where are we? Are we at that kind of VFL more elite level, or are we still at just a higher local kind of vibe of the comp in terms of the clubs that are participating and kind of running the show, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we saw exactly North Geelong had been a team in the VFLW comp for ages, and they handed over their licence to Geelong Football Club for this year.
For this year, yeah.
So the Geelong Cats have a VFL women's team, and that has been part of a transition from that North Geelong team, which, has folded in that comp and kind of merged paths with the Geelong Cats.
And we also had the Box Hill Hawks come into the VFL this year over, taking over Knox's licence.
Correct. And now we're seeing Casey
Demons.
Casey Demons taking over Cranbourne, and obviously Casey are affiliated with Melbourne Demons.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the aligning of it's the VFL brother and sister combo really taking more shape.
And so this is the latest one that's happened, is that Melbourne Casey Demons has taken over Cranbourne's licence, and they'll be the first club to have AFLW, VFLW alignment.
Oh, yeah, of course. I forgot that the D's have an AFLW.
Yeah, so if Geelong get their AFLW licence, which it sort of looks like that's in the bag at the moment.
And will be announced next week.
Then Geelong will be the second team to have an AFLW to VFLW sort of kind of pathway. But then on top of that, you have the TAC Cup for girls now, which means that you have these girls who are under 18 playing for the Geelong Falcons. Correct. Which is, the better players from those teams, you would think with the logical pathway is for them to then go to the Geelong VFLW team. Yep. And then if they're good in the Geelong VFLW, they can then, get upgraded to the AFLW team.
Yeah, so it's a really clear pathway.
So we've got that really clear pathway now. But then how, and it's been sort of apparent now, how do teams like Seaford and like Cranbourne, even though there's licence being taken off them, like VU, how do you compete, or Eastern Devils as well, how do you compete with teams that have got all of this resource and the backing of an AFL club and money?
Yeah.
It's like you just really can't, unless you are Darebin or, it's literally only really Darebin at the moment who will keep their community
Who are a solid powerhouse.
Who are a solid powerhouse.
Yeah, I think it's interesting in the sense that I think we'll see more alignments with VFL sides and clubs, regardless of whether they're actually affiliated. So, some ideas have been thrown around, for instance, Werribee in the VFL. They are only a VFL side now after AFL Victoria has decided to can the VFL Men's Seconds League, which is the VFL Development League. So they're really keen to join forces with an existing VFL women's team. Now, whether we'll see clubs literally merging, so, your VU's kind of a bad example because they'll probably go down the Bulldogs path.
Yeah.
But an Eastern Devils or whatever, whether we'll see them merge into, all falling under the banner of a Werribee Football Club, an existing VFL club, or whether they'll just be affiliated but they'll remain two kind of separate team identities.
Yeah.
But I think we'll see more of that where we're going to have to pair up as brother-sister combos to boost the club. But it's not just the women's side of the comp that will benefit from that.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that too. Like, I think having all the more girls involved and having, like, the professionalisation of all of that, like, it's good. It's good for the boys as well.
Yep.
It's like a complete change of, like, culture.
It's a complete change of culture. Yeah. It's incredible and positive, and people are really open to it. Like the people that I spoke to high up in VFL, and Michael Sotomaco, who's the captain of Werribee's VFL side. He was super keen. Like they want to join forces with the girls team, which is awesome. The fact that we can even chat about that as a possibility and something that people are keen to make happen is awesome. Like that's so great.
And I think that's also a point, is that it's something that we never thought would happen.
Yeah.
But it's also something that we never thought would happen 18 months ago.
Yep.
Like, who would have thought that Box Hill Hawks were going to join the VFL?
Yep.
Like a year, like I think they announced it like just over a year ago now, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
Like, who knew that was going to happen?
Yep.
Like, but, I think all of this stuff that we're going to hear about very, very soon for the VFL has been in the works for a while. For example, apparently Cranbourne were told of their fate with the Casey Demons taking over their licence back in round 3.
Which doesn't surprise me. And I mean, you'd have to see the writing on the wall a little bit there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough because you go, is it killing that lovely community vibe that the comp has at the moment? But I think everyone can see this is a classic cliche, but it's for the good of the game. This is going to be so much better for those talented player pathways and for girls in 10 years to come. These sort of moves now, while they're awkward transition phases and there's a lot of kind of, tiptoeing and working out how to best go about this, it's going to be better in the long run for everyone.
Yeah. And it is hard because a lot of these clubs have been founded by, like, the pioneers of women's football.
Yeah.
Like your Lisa Caddos for St Kilda and Debbie Lee, who founded VU back when they were, I think, St Albans Spurs, and then they got taken over VU. So it's like sometimes, I'm sure a lot of people, unfortunately, will see it as a slap in the face that AFL Victoria might take over and just be like, oh, we've got it from here. Like, don't worry about it.
That's the thing. It's hard. That's always going to be a bit of the case.
It's a bit of a case. But then Pepper Randall, a player for GWS who plays for Eastern Devils, is interestingly the receptionist at my dad's work.
Oh, that's random.
And she told my father that Eastern Devils just can't keep up. Like, despite, the great community feel and everything like that. Like, it's just gotten to the point now where they can't...
Everything else is moving too quickly.
Everything else is moving too quickly, and they can't compete with teams like Geelong, who are playing at Simmons Stadium and have, like... Resources, like 3 specialist coaches.
Yeah.
They just can't compete with that. So it makes sense that it's got to take... But I think these community clubs will exist. They just won't have that higher significance.
Yeah. And I just don't think that there'll be... We won't see standalone VFL women's clubs exist for more than 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to at least join with a men's side or something in some way or fashion. Otherwise, exactly right, you're going to die.
Yeah, you can't keep up.
The other thing is that people might not know, the VFL women's comp is really expensive.
Yeah.
And exactly, North Geelong found that the hardest part, and that's where being... helped out by the strength of existing AFL clubs is really helpful because it's not cheap.
No.
The kind of costs involved with entering a team and insurance for players and all that sort of stuff. It's bloody expensive.
It's really, really expensive.
More so than you would think. So, like the licensing costs and stuff, they're huge. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to see those standalones last long. And there's more incentive for players to go to these bigger clubs, like what Geelong Cats can provide and what, Box Hill Hawks can provide is always going to be more enticing for a talented player than what an Eastern Devils can provide.
Yeah.
So then we're also going to see a divide in the talent and the teams be less competitive, which is kind of what we're seeing with Eastern Devils already this year.
Yeah, exactly. And so a lot of change in the VFL, but I think, as you said, for the good of the game.
Yeah,
we'll
eventually.
See, yeah.
And hopefully everyone can just stand back and realise that even when there are some tough things at the moment and we might not like some kind of politics around it at the moment, hopefully everyone can see at the end of the day this is all in the best interest of women's footy.
We're going to produce some very talented players, which only means that the standard of the AFLW will increase exponentially, which will then draw more girls to the game.
Yep.
Get more players into the talented pathways.
Everyone's
make
a winner.
The AFLW a more viable product. Everyone's a winner.
Yeah.
And I even think that next year we'll see a massive increase in the standard of play in the AFLW.
100%.
Like, even just from the Victorian clubs that are playing, like, we'll see a huge increase in the...
Well, there have been a lot of players in the VFLW comp who, had barely touched footy before this season and now they're brilliant. And those stories just keep happening at the moment. So
put them at that higher level with more high-level coaching, more resources, and we'll see some great things happening. But it's an exciting time. I like to hold on to the excitement of it because otherwise I think a lot of negatives could come out of it.
Exactly right. Yeah. And that's what I mean, where you just got to take a step back and realise that at the end of the day, it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
It is all, the overarching feel of all of this is really positive. Yeah. So keep that in mind.
But my prediction for the VFLW next year is that the only 2 community clubs left will be Diamond Creek and Darebin.
Yep.
They'll be the only 2.
Well, they're the only 2 strong enough.
Yeah.
To stick around.
So we'll see probably 6 more teams get taken over or have their licenses given to someone else.
Yeah.
So, but hold this space. Apparently the changes are going to be announced in October. So
yeah,
we'll hear more about it then. But we're going to go to a song now. This is Ivy League with Sylvia. And when we come back, we'll be talking more AFL, but the issue of
less
tanking.
Positive.
Yeah, less positive tanking. This is the Sports Desk on SYN 90.7. We just spoke about the VFLW and how that is all changing, and that's all new. But I feel like the topic we're talking about now is not new at all.
Good segue, Lucy.
Thank you. Thank you. It just always comes up this time of year, but I feel like the last few years less so.
Yeah.
Just because we've had a team that's been... Sorry, I should probably tell what we're talking about. We're talking about tanking in the AFL. So obviously in the AFL, if you finish last in the ladder, wooden spoon, you get the number 1 draft pick. So always comes up. But the last few years, I feel like we've had a team that's just like, everyone's like, oh, wooden spoon, that's done.
2 games done. Yeah.
It's done. This weekend, however, we have North Melbourne playing Brisbane.
It's live.
And
the race is on.
How many teams are in the AFL? Like, I was going to say 15 and 16th. Is that right? No, it's 17 and 18.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're 17 and 18th.
It's not that hard to work out.
Oh, my God. They're 17th and 18th on the ladder, so second last and last.
Yep.
And somehow the fixtures ended up that they're playing each other this weekend.
They're actually playing each other.
So winner does not get the number 1 draft picked. You would think that the winner would be the one that would get rewarded in this situation, but they are not.
True, they are playing each other. That is bizarre. I knew. Yeah, right. So yeah, it's the race for the wooden spoon.
Yeah.
Who wants to win it?
Or who wants the number 1 draft pick?
Exactly. So the chat has come back because everyone's saying, well, you'd be mad to want to win it, wouldn't you? Win the game.
Yeah.
Because if you win the game, well, you lose the right to the number 1 draft pick. So are we going to see these sides not really fighting for the win?
I think that the talk about tanking now is silly. Like, I think, and a lot of coaches have said this, like, especially since that 2013 incident where Melbourne was accused and then got fined, and Chris Connolly, who interestingly was talking about this in an article about this year's one, he was banned from the AFL.
Correct.
So I think ever since then, even if you come out and you're just like, we're all about competitive culture, that's what we're working towards, a winning culture, we don't care about the draft picks. I think maybe I'm naive, but I want to believe that.
I will see you, but I will raise you.
Mm.
The way we tank now has changed.
Yeah.
So it comes from the coaches. So players will know no different and will go out there and players can't tank. They tried to with that Melbourne stuff, and that's when it all got awkward.
Yeah.
As far as the players are aware, on the weekend, they'll be going out to win. They'll be hearing this winning culture jargon, and they'll be going, great, we're all trying to win. No, we're not trying to tank. And they'll genuinely believe that. But I can tell you right now that there's not a hope in hell that the coaching panel will pick their strongest sides.
Yeah.
So that's how you tank these days. You play the kids and you inject so much more youth than you would, and you play a side that you know is not your strongest side. So you tank on paper. So your players out there are still trying to win, but the team that you put out there to try and win isn't your strongest.
But now that's too obvious.
Well, that's what they're saying now too, that everyone's now caught on to that a bit. But I've certainly had chats with coaches, with ex-footy players that scoff at tanking chats because they know that that is exactly how it's done, and that totally exists. And
I saw something today about how the scrutiny on the two coaches this weekend will be a bit much, like a bit unfair on Chris Fagan and one of the Scott brothers, Brad Scott.
Yep.
For sort of, that both teams, if they lose, end up having the wooden spoon at number 1 draft pick. It is unfair scrutiny. And so do you think to avoid this kind of scrutiny, we need to have a draft lottery?
Yeah, what? Please explain.
So it's like they do it in the NBA. So the teams that I think it's like the bottom the bottom 4 spots will get put in, and then
it's just random.
Yeah, it's just random, like picking numbers out of a hat who gets the number 1 draft pick.
That certainly makes a lot of sense. I'm all about that. I think the only time where that probably is less fair is if you've got a clear, someone's at the bottom of the ladder by 4 games. Yeah. Then that's where it feels like, well, they need the talent. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. That would solve this issue straight away.
Yeah, that's what I think too. But I think we're a long way off it.
Yeah.
But then I also understand that these conversations will just continue to come back.
This time every year.
Until you have something to sort of sort it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the resting player scenario, and so we introduced the bye before finals.
Before finals, yeah.
Which, interestingly, we wouldn't have really needed this year because so many games are crucial this weekend in determining ladder position.
But then we wouldn't have had the AFLW State of Origin.
And then
that would have been a travesty.
So we kind of feel like that has fixed that, although the flip side to that argument, just going on to that, is that
there's no momentum.
There's no everyone's fresher for finals, so there's less of an advantage if you finish in that top 4, getting that week off.
Yeah.
It's kind of leveled the playing field there.
Here's a random solution that I heard for this.
Okay.
A Port player who I don't think he's like very well known because I cannot remember his name. It's not like Robbie Gray or anyone like that. But he said that he was for starting every single game in round 23 simultaneously.
Yeah.
So every single game is played at the same time.
So everyone has the same break leading into finals.
Yeah. No, yeah, also for a game like this weekend, so that no player goes out thinking, so if you're the Saints or whatever and you're playing Richmond.
Yeah, you're not going, we really need to win this by a lot to boost our percentage to get that fourth
and then
spot
the game,
on the ladder,
because the game beforehand will be finished. And if I can't remember who's playing, but if they lose, the Saints' chances of going to the finals are higher. Yeah. So then you have this whole mental sort of thing. So it's just
Yeah, no, that takes the fun out of it though.
Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah.
I can get
how annoying to watch them all at the same time. You'd be sitting.
Oh, jeez.
You'd have to go into
be a good day for the pubs.
Yeah, exactly. Just with
you need 8 screens.
8 screens is with all the different games.
Well, you could just cancel out the Brisbane and North game, that's for last position. Yeah. No one cares. Just get the top 8 games. No, I can see how that makes a lot of sense from a player's mental perspective, but from us, no, thank you. We
from a consumer perspective, no,
no from me.
Yeah. So tanking conversations back around, and I suppose we won't know until this time next week, essentially.
Well, we'll know more on Thursday night when the teams get released. And we get to look at some omissions and who's been included. But then I wouldn't be I would almost bet that we'll see some late changes in these games as well.
Yeah.
So to avoid it looking so black and white that the teams are undermanned.
Yeah. So it could be interesting.
But also, like, is the difference this big? Is it worth the tank?
Yeah.
If you win the game, you get the second pick.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not that big a difference.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not talking first
and this is a
30th.
point. Yeah, this is a point that Chris Fagan made. He said, we picked this player at number 3.
Yeah, Jacob Berry.
And he said we would have picked him if we had number 1.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't matter. If he was there for the taking, if no other club wanted him, we were going to take him anyway.
Yeah.
It did not matter where we finished.
Yeah.
So I think that's also a good sort of point to put out there.
Yeah, I think the difference between the first pick and the second pick is usually not a lot.
No.
So, yeah, is it worth the tank? So is this conversation even worth having?
This is the thing. This is the other thing. I'm like, is it worth having this conversation?
Like other clubs even thinking, behind closed doors, it'd be good to not win it. Like, are they even thinking that? Because at the end of the day, they get the second pick anyway. So, is it even an issue?
Yeah, exactly. Is it even an issue? But as we said, tanking in the AFL, can it be solved with draft lottery? Can we play all games simultaneously on the weekend?
No,
Who knows?
Too hard for the punter.
We'll find out next year at this time when we start having the same conversation again. But
correct.
Thank you for joining us this morning on the Sports Desk. On Friday, we have Ben, Michael and Sarah reviewing a big weekend of sport. Previewing. Oh, my God. Which includes big final round of the AFL.
Yes.
Which will be huge. And then next Wednesday, we're going to have a special guest, aren't we?
Woo! Special guest before the AFLW State of Origin.
Yes. So we have one of... We'll give you a clue, and that is that they were nominated for the Rising Star. And they have my favourite voice of the AFLW.
They also have the most sought-after social media segment in... VFL Women's comp. And the VFL Men's, throw that in there too.
Yeah, of all VFL.
So anyway, it's a really big scalp. So hold your breath for that all week.
Exactly. So we'll be back on Friday at 9 a.m. The Wednesday Desk team will be back 9 a.m. next week as well. You can find us on Facebook. And thank you so much for listening. We're going to go to a song now. And up next is Schools on Air. This is Borat with Sunglasses.
Happy Wednesday.